What if the most powerful superhero is also the most dangerous? Today's story dives deep into Marvel's boldest twist yet betrayal, secrets, and a god like me on the edge of losing control. Stay with us till the end because this is not your average hero tale. At the beginning of the story, we see Yelena Belova traveling to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia on a secret mission. There, an Ox research laboratory is located where Valentina is illegally conducting human experiments. Valentina, the director of the CIA, wants to hide these illegal activities from the government. To destroy all the evidence, she secretly sends Yelena to the lab. Inside the lab, a scientist repeatedly tries to warn Yelena that what Valentina is doing is extremely dangerous, and that she has no idea how big a mistake she is making. Suddenly, behind Yelena, we notice a dark shadow moving through the glass as if someone or something is silently lurking there. The scientist keeps trying to convince her, but Yelena is focused on her mission. In the end, she destroys the entire research laboratory. Meanwhile, we see Bucky Barnes. He is now a political figure serving as a congressman in Congress. A case is filed against Valentina, accusing her of performing illegal experiments on humans. She denies the accusations, saying they are all false. As a CIA director and a citizen, she claims her duty is to protect the people and ensure the nation's safety. Not long ago, a major incident shook the country. The president himself turned into a raging monster, the Red Hulk. In times like this, who will protect the people? Meanwhile, Yelena goes to meet her father, Alexei, known to the world as the Red Guardian. Yelena feels lonely. She has already lost her sister, and the grief still weighs heavily on her. Alexei may not have been the best father, but he truly loves his daughters. Still, Yelena knows there's no point in sharing her pain with him. This man will never truly understand what she's going through, so she leaves and contacts Valentina. Valentina gives Yelena a new mission. She must go to another branch of the Ox laboratory, this one located in Utah. There's actually a rogue operative who escaped with sensitive files, and Yelena's mission is to stop her. Who is this operative? It's Ghost, the same elusive character we saw in the Ant-Man movie. Following her mission, Yelena chases Ghost and eventually enters the lab. After stepping inside, she notices some documents, and in those papers, she finds mentions of Project Sentry, the very same project Valentina has secretly been working on all this time. But in those documents, there's also a picture of a person completely consumed by black smoke, exactly like the shadowy figure we saw earlier in the Malaysian laboratory. Anyway, Yelena was sent here to track down Ghost, but once she arrives, she realizes the situation is completely different. They're not alone in this place. There, we find U.S. Agent John Walker, also known as Captain America. John has come with a mission to kill Yelena, but it's not just the three of them soon. Taskmaster also arrives, sent to eliminate John, and finally, Ghost was originally sent to take out Taskmaster. There, we witness an intense fight. During the battle, Taskmaster is killed, leaving only the three of them, but they are not alone. There's someone else in the lab, a test subject of Valentina's experiments. His name is Bob. Now, Bob has no idea how he ended up here, and the others don't know what he's doing in this place either. Anyway, later they talk and realize that they have all been trapped here. Valentina planned this whole thing, sending them on different missions to kill each other. Her plan was to trap them inside, lock all the exits, and burn the entire lab down, destroying all evidence and killing everyone inside so that nothing is left behind. Just like we saw, the government and Bucky are trying to expose Valentina, but she doesn't want anyone to have this evidence. That's why she's determined to destroy all the proof. Valentina has an assistant named Melissa. She orders Melissa to lock all the exits from the outside and set the lab on fire. Meanwhile, the people trapped inside realize that Valentina has planned this to kill them all. On the other hand, Ghost can usually move through walls, but this time, there's a high-pitched, high-frequency sound barrier in place. Because of this, she can't phase through the walls, meaning no one can really escape from there. Meanwhile, a countdown begins to minutes until everything burns to ash. They have to find a way out fast. Finally, they discover the control for the sound barrier and disable it. Ghost then phases through the wall, unlocks the door from the outside, and they all manage to escape just before the entire place is destroyed. At that moment, Yelena's hand touches Bob's, and she sees a vision from her painful past. It's a tragic moment from her past when Yelena's best friend Anya was killed as part of her training. Yelena had been ordered to take her friend into the forest, and she followed the instructions. There, right in front of her eyes, Anya was executed. But the vision doesn't end there in this memory. Bob is also present, as if he is witnessing Yelena's painful past with his own eyes. On the other hand, Valentina soon gets the news that her mission has failed and that there is someone there she doesn't even recognize. So now, she sends a full-strike team to the site with one clear order: to eliminate everyone. At that time, Valentina and Melissa are riding in a limousine driven by none other than Alexei, Yelena's father. Alexei works part-time as a limo driver, and since he is driving that day, he overhears everything. He realizes his daughter is in danger because Yelena had already told him she was working on missions for Valentina. Meanwhile, inside the lab, the others are trying to understand Bob, whose real name is Robert Unos. Bob says he can't remember anything. He explains that he arrived at this facility. Someone gave him an injection, and after that, his memory went completely blank. Because of this, U.S. Agent John Walker throws a few harsh words at him. Hearing that, Bob calls him a jerk, which makes John even angrier. John wasn't always this angry, but ever since he took the super soldier serum, it has created intense anger issues inside him. However, Yelena speaks to Bob kindly. Out of everyone there, if Bob can trust even one person, it would be her. Bob is a deeply depressed and sorrowful man, and while talking to Yelena, he briefly mentions the void, but no one really understands how dangerous that thing actually is. Meanwhile, Valentina's assistant Melissa secretly calls Bucky and shares some information with him. In the past, Bucky had tried to contact Melissa to uncover Valentina's secrets, but at that time, she refused to tell him anything. However, once Melissa discovers that Valentina is conducting horrifying experiments inside the lab and even planning to eliminate the test subjects, she finally reaches out to Bucky. She can't reveal everything over the phone, so she tells him to track her phone, though he can monitor where she and Valentina are going. On the other hand, they have also gathered quite a bit of information about Bob. Valentina eventually learns that Bob was actually part of the Sentry project, the secret program where those dangerous human experiments were conducted. But this man, Bob, somehow survived. So Valentina now realizes that she has been trying all along to destroy the evidence, thinking her experiments had failed. But that's not true. Project Sentry was actually successful, and one of the test subjects, Bob, is still alive. As they were leaving the laboratory, John reached out to help Bob and touched his hand. Instantly, just like what happened with Yelena, John saw a memory of his own. He recalled a painful moment when he had a fight with his wife, Olivia, and she left with their child. And these aren't just dreams. People actually feel and experience those real heartbreaking moments all over again. Finally, they prepared to leave the lab, but outside the entire task force is waiting. As we've seen before, Valentina isn't going to let any of them walk out alive. The soldiers are fully ready for battle. But then Valentina arrives and gives a surprising order. Don't kill them, just injure them. I want every single one of them captured alive because now they know the truth about Bob. Valentina can't risk them escaping, but our heroes fight back fiercely. They beat the soldiers, outsmart them, and even manage to sneak out in disguise. They steal an army truck and try to make a run for it, but unfortunately, they get caught in the end. Meanwhile, sitting inside the truck, Bob starts feeling completely useless from the beginning. He's seen everyone else fighting and holding their ground while he can't do anything. Just a burden to the team. Feeling desperate, he jumps out of the vehicle and starts firing wildly into the sky, trying to create chaos and distract the soldiers so the heroes can escape. Immediately, the soldiers surround Bob. This time, they ignore Valentina's orders. Too many of their men are already dead or badly injured, and out of pure rage, they start firing wildly at Bob. But shockingly, Bob doesn't die. The bullets only rip through his clothes, but his body isn't injured at all. After taking the hits, Bob suddenly launches into the sky, flying uncontrollably like something inside him has awakened. But midair, he loses consciousness. When he crashes back to the ground, it's like a 1,000-kilogram bomb has just been dropped. The shockwave is so powerful, it shakes the entire area violently and horrifies everyone around. Anyway, Valentina finally gets her hands on Bob and is thrilled because her Sentry project has finally proving to be a success. On the other hand, our heroes now fully understand Bob's true identity. He is no ordinary man. Even John realizes that out of all the experiments Valentina conducted, at least one of them actually worked. The next morning, the heroes are secretly planning their escape, since the entire area is surrounded by the army. At that moment, Yelena's father, Alexei, the Red Guardian, arrives in a car, trying to warn his daughter, but it's already too late. Yelena has learned the whole truth, and she knows that Valentina is trying to kill her. Then they attempt to escape in Alexei's limousine, but the OXE soldiers open fire like madmen. Our heroes are trapped, no way forward, no way back, and just when it seems like all hope is lost, Bucky Barnes bursts onto the scene. How did Bucky end up here? Well, Melissa had secretly sent him a message telling him to track her phone. By following that signal, Bucky arrived at this exact location. At first, he launches a fierce and brutal attack on the OXE soldiers, taking down several of them with precision. But then, shockingly, he doesn't stop there. Bucky turns his weapons on our heroes as well and begins attacking them too. Meanwhile, Valentina has transformed the old Avengers tower into her brand new headquarters. Now renamed the Watchtower, the entire building has been redesigned for maximum control and secrecy. She's brought in a team of doctors, nurses, and top-level scientists to operate within the facility, and of course, she's also transferred Bob to this location, keeping him under strict surveillance. Melissa warns Valentina that Bob's dark past of depression and addiction makes giving him such power dangerous, but Valentina ignores her. She orders a global press conference to reveal Bob as the Sentry, insisting that in a world without the Avengers, the people need a new symbol of hope and she will give them one. Meanwhile, Bucky Barnes has captured the heroes. He's tied them up and begun a harsh interrogation, demanding to know their plan and why they've come here. The team tells him the full truth about Bob and the chaos Valentina is about to unleash, but Bucky doesn't believe them. To him, it just sounds like another desperate lie from enemies of the state. Later, Melissa secretly contacts Bucky and confirms everything. Bob is real, unstable, and haunted by addiction and trauma, yet Valentina has chosen him as the next global superhero. Melissa urges Bucky to act. Valentina must be stopped before she unleashes a catastrophic risk on the world, because she doesn't realize the catastrophic risk she's about to unleash on the world. We saw that when Valentina spoke to Bob and touched him, she also had a vision, a memory from her own childhood when her father died. Still, Valentina decides to take this huge risk anyway. She says some motivational and encouraging words to Bob, exactly the kind of things he wants to hear. Hearing Valentina's words, Bob starts to feel motivated. He begins to believe that, yes, he has many abilities and can do something great. For so long, he thought of himself as a loser, but now, Valentina's words have made him overconfident. To stop Valentina, our heroes, along with Bucky, take a car and break into the tower. They start fighting the soldiers, but Valentina doesn't want any battle. She just wants to talk. Eventually, they all come face to face with Valentina. On the other hand, Bucky is not just a hero, he's also a politician. He has now gathered all the evidence against Valentina, so who can save her now? The brainwashing Valentina did on Bob has finally worked. However, Bucky cannot even touch Valentina because Bob is controlling him from a distance. Bob's powers are now at a truly deadly level. Our Bob, now known by his new name, Sentry, only wants one thing. He wants everyone to call him Sentry. Sentry arrives and tells everyone to leave quietly because he doesn't want to hurt anyone. But our heroes refuse to leave without Valentina, and that's when a fight breaks out between them. In Sentry, we see that no one can even stand against Sentry. There are many powered soldiers and even the super soldiers present, yet none of them can do anything. Valentina had said it before, even the full Avengers team together wouldn't have as much power as Sentry alone. The Avengers team even has a godlike character named Thor, and now Sentry has started to see himself on that same god level. I mean, when you give this kind of power to someone who was once a complete loser, you can clearly see the result by looking at Bob. Anyway, our Sentry, or Bob, is a man with deadly powers, so our superheroes are forced to escape. They can no longer continue the fight. Meanwhile, Valentina orders Bob to kill our heroes, but he says no. He tells her that these people are no threat, so why should he kill them? On the other hand, Bob already sees himself as a god. He says, "Why should I follow your orders? I am a god. Why would a god take orders from an ordinary human?" Now, Valentina realizes that the level of power and ego she gave Bob has completely backfired. However, she had built a kill switch so that if Bob ever went out of control, he could be killed at the right moment. Melissa activates the kill switch. This temporarily saves Valentina, but Bob is still not permanently killed by it. When Melissa activates the kill switch, Sentry appears to die, but that's when the void awakens, an endless black darkness, with absolutely no trace of light. The movie's portrayal of the void is truly brilliant and cleverly done. Many soldiers thought he was just a normal character and started shooting at him. But the void is a being that simply cannot die. He begins to completely destroy every person in the city, sending them into the void. The void has its own personal world, a place where people relive their most painful memories and moments. Since this void exists inside Bob and is made from his pain and past trauma, it wants everyone to feel that suffering too. That's why the void spreads like wildfire, consuming the entire New York City. Our heroes try to save as many people as they can, but soon they realize it's just not enough. Meanwhile, Yelena, who believed in Bob from the very beginning, willingly enters the void herself. While everyone else was saying that the void consumes everything, Yelena refused to believe that. Inside the void, Yelena starts seeing all her painful memories from the past. Earlier, we saw that anyone who touched Bob experienced sad memories. This was actually happening because of the void. So, Yelena realizes that it is Bob who is causing this, showing her all those painful memories. Inside the void, she keeps searching for Bob to talk to him, yelling and moving through all the painful dreams. Finally, she finds Bob quietly sitting in a room he calls the nicest room. This is actually Bob's comfort zone. Here, we finally learn about Bob's past. He truly had an abusive father who used to beat him when he was a child. As he grew older, his life spiraled into chaos, consumed by addiction and aimlessness with no real purpose to live for. Anyway, Yelena finally finds Bob in that room. She comforts him and truly understands his pain, how the void has been feeding on the dark side that lives inside him. Later, he became a volunteer for Project Sentry, but honestly, he joined only because of his love for drugs. He thought he might get access to some new kind of substance, but he had no idea what was truly going to happen to him. Meanwhile, along with Yelena, the other heroes also enter the void. Since John had already experienced parts of it before, they eventually managed to find Yelena inside. But now the challenge is clear. They all need to escape this place. The question is, how? Now, Bob's entire body is controlled by the void, not by Sentry himself. Because of this, Bob's every bad memory is experienced by them as well. As they go through all of it, they finally reach the very first moment, the place where everything started. This is the very spot where Bob's experiment happened, the place where the void first entered his body. Here, Bob shows great courage and finally faces the void directly. He proves that he is not a victim, that he is not afraid of the void. So, he attacks it and fights with everything he has. At one point, he becomes so fierce that he starts beating the void brutally, and that's when Yelena realizes Bob is making a mistake. Inside Bob, there are actually the personas. One is the dark side, the void, full of negativity and pain, and the other is the bright side, the Sentry, which represents his positive self. When Bob starts violently beating the void, he begins to lose himself to its influence. Slowly, he starts slipping under the void's control. At that crucial moment, Yelena rushes in and manages to stop Bob, preventing the void from completely taking over his body. The scene is crafted with remarkable intensity and emotion. They manage to stop Bob, and in the end, he proves that he isn't afraid of the void. Slowly, Bob regains full control over his body and pulls himself back from the darkness. The void had swallowed the entire city, but now, finally, everything has returned to normal. Even the people who had disappeared have come back. However, Bob remembers nothing. He has no memory of what happened during that whole time, and honestly, no one even tries to remind him. Just then, Valentina arrives at the scene. As I mentioned before, Valentina always has a few tricks up her sleeve, and this time, she has the entire press already prepared and waiting. As our heroes are about to capture her, She suddenly presents them in front of the press and proudly announces that these are the new Avengers, just as the movie's title suggests. In this situation, they can't do anything. They can't even say yes or no. They just stand there silently. Basically, the people of the country wanted new Avengers, and Valentina has simply given them exactly that, while Valentina is calling them the Avengers. Yelena quietly says to Valentina, "From now on, we are your masters." Around 14 months after this incident, we see Red Guardian again, now much slimmer and sporting a completely new look. He and the team are still doing superhero work, but suddenly, an emergency rises, some kind of space-related problem. What exactly the problem is, we still don't know. Then, a ship from a completely different dimension enters Earth's atmosphere. On the ship, the number 4 is clearly visible. Just by seeing it, everyone realizes which team has arrived. We all know that the number 4 represents the Fantastic Four, and we will discover its mystery in the upcoming movie Fantastic Four. That's where Thunderbolts, or the New Avengers, finally comes to an end. To an end. How did you like this explanation? Don't forget to let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one. Till then, stay healthy and take care. Bye.